Well, hello there, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the MrWarrenHayes Show. And I, of course, am your maestro, the conductor, the captain of the tugboat of love, Mr. Warrenhayes, and welcome. This evening we are celebrating January 23rd, 2020. Why are we celebrating, you may be asking me? Why are we celebrating this, Warren? No reason. No reason. Why do we need a specific reason to celebrate a day? We can just celebrate the fact that we are gathered here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes to talk professional wrestling as a group, as a fun troop of people. Because I do this live every Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes, and per usual, I have a fantastic group of people who have decided to take some time out of their day to come and chat wrestling here this evening in the greatest, and I am not just hyping. I am not just going overboard here. This is the truth. This is the best wrestling related chat out there. We have Tim Traver, good friend of the show. How you doing, Tim? Who's here? Melinda Vinaski is here. Not a name I've seen before. Welcome to the chat, Melinda. Robert Larry is here. Kristen Ashley is here. Always, like right here. Just right here. That's my heart. I'm not just patting my boobies. This is where my heart is. We have also Nick Wolf was here. Anthony Gaston, D-Generation MC, who made it on time tonight. How you doing, Aaron Jace fan? Carlos is here as well. Good guy Dave. How you doing? We got you what mate, who's here as well. How you doing? Omar Playa, how's it going? I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. Everyone, there's a whole ton group of people. J.S. Brown is here as well. Thank you, everyone, for joining me this evening. I really, really do appreciate it. I honestly and sincerely do. Some great people, great stuff, great fun. And if you're watching this live, why don't you give the video a thumbs up? That helps. That'll help YouTube say, hey, you know what, this Warren Hayes guy, not so bad. He maybe can make us a couple of bucks. let's promote his stuff a little more. So that'd be fantastic. And even if you're watching this on demand, give it a thumbs up. Or if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast application, because yes, the Mr. Warren Hayes Show is available on all podcast applications. You can give us a review, a star review, a written review, a like, a thumbs up, a subscription, a follow, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. And if you want to make sure that you never miss anything that I do here on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show, hit the bell thing. Apparently YouTube is acting up these days as far as notifications go, so you can't just trust YouTube will push to you a proper notification. You do the bell thing, that way you're sure you're covered. And everything is all right. Don't forget, folks, after the show here, right here, over on patreon.com/MrWarrenHayes is my Patreon exclusive post stream called Warren is Off the Clock. If you want to come support the Mr. Warren Hayes Show, that's a great way to do it. There's 2 tiers. Starts at $2 just to support the show. Just say, hey, Warren, we love what you do. Here you go. Or you can join at the $5 tier, which is the Power Pal tier, and you get a whole bunch of goodies, including the post streams that you can come to the recording live. It's a very, very different, much more casual atmosphere. We get to take the time to chat. And tonight I'm going to be going through a bunch of subjects. I'm going to be talking about AEW stories. You know, there's a lot of discussion about AEW storylines, that they don't do storylines. Oh, we're going to touch about that. I'm going to talk about The Fiend no longer being scary. And I'm going to talk about NWA Power a bit as well. They did a 90-minute show this week. I'm going to give some thoughts on that. So do check us out. It's right after this stream here, the post stream. Warren is Off the Clock is what it's called, over on patreon.com/MrWarrenHayes. That's a great way to support the show. You can also support the show by sending a super chat right here as I'm talking whenever, and I will read gleefully your statement / question, as long as it's not offensive, because otherwise I'm just going to snap. No, I'm not going to read it. But you can do that as well. And we've already have a couple of super chats here this evening. Tim Traver gave a super chat. Thank you very much, Tim. Very generous one. He just says, I want to bless Mr. Warren Hayes tonight. Thank you, Tim. I know you're having a rough go. Hope things are going well on your end. Nick Wolf just says, Patreon member supporting Nick. Thank you for your unequivocal support. I really appreciate it. Wild Boy, how you doing? Welcome to the chat, buddy. Evangelina Contu is here as well. Conrad just jumped in. There's a whole look at that. All these people. RJ's here as well. Oh, Benoit is here too. Oh, everybody's just jumping in. Joe Cook, how you doing? How are you doing? So tomorrow night, don't forget, Fightful on the Fightful channel. It's back. You've probably heard about it, but it's back. I'm going to be there on right after SmackDown to do the SmackDown post show with Sean. Don't forget, that's Saturday. I'm going to have a busy Saturday. Might as well baptize it Saturdays. Right? Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, live here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. I'm going to be joined by the incomparable Joe Anthony Myrick of Daily DDT to do my Royal Rumble predictions show. He's going to be here. It's going to be a good time. We're going to be pontificating on Royal Rumble, on predictions, surprises, all that good stuff. It's going to be fun. Might even talk a bit about Worlds Collide at the same time, which is happening in the evening. So that's at it. But the prediction show is at 11 a.m. And then after, I'm going to be doing something for Worlds Collide. I sort of decided this a bit last minute. I'm going to be doing a post show for Worlds Collide right here again on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. And I'm going to be joined by Alex Pulowski of Fightful and Sour Graps over on Fightful Select. Alex is, well, we talked about it. We were like, you want to do that? I'm like, yeah, I'd like to. Do you want to join me? Said, yeah, I'll do it. All right, then let's do it. So it's gonna be good. It's gonna be like Fightful without all the sap. Free from sap. So be sure to come check us out for our post show. Should be fun. It's going to be a good weekend. And of course, don't forget to visit belltobells.com, because that's the best way for you to get all your women's wrestling coverage. And we're going to be talking a bit about women's wrestling tonight, aren't we? But belltobells.com talks about it all the time, every day. Articles and more articles on top of articles. So go check it out. It's BELLTOBELLEES. So that's fantastic. Be sure to check it out. Follow them on follow Bell to Bells as well on Twitter. That way you're sure you are not missing out on anything. And you know what else we're not going to miss out here this evening? We're not going to miss out talking about the week in wrestling. Because, folks, it is time for the weekly wrestling inspection. Yeah! Oh, by the way, I forgot to advise everyone, I will be doing a post show for the Royal Rumble on the Smart to Death channel. After the show, Smart to Death, youtube.com/Smart to Death, who, by the way, are celebrating, my boy Anthony celebrating 2 years of Smart to Death today. 2 years ago. Smart to Death is one of the earliest big name wrestling. Okay, let me start over. Smart to Death was actually one of the first fan created podcasts that I started listening to, and really, really inspired me to really push myself and try to do good. They were a level I wanted to achieve, and since then I have had the pleasure of getting to know Anthony. I got to know Kyle a bit before he died. He's not dead, but I got to know Kyle a little bit as well. But Anthony's a good friend. Congratulations, Anthony, on 2 years. That's fantastic, and we're definitely going to celebrate that a little bit as well on Sunday when I go join Anthony Suter on the Smart to Death podcast. So there you go. All right. Hey, Bad News Burke, how you doing? Welcome to the chat. I hope you're really not bad news. All right. Let's get to it. Let's start by pulling up my graphics here. How do I do stream? Okay, there we go. Let's start straight off the bat with some cool beans. Let's start this thing nice and proper. Some positivity to kick things off. And I'm a broken record, and I'm aware of it, but by God, the Otis and Mandy storyline is really one of the best things that WWE is pulling off today. It is, no, Ben in the chat, it's not cruel beans, it's cool beans. Very cool beans. What I love, I think I've talked about it every week, right? The Otis and Mandy story. I think it's great. But the little wrinkle that they're adding into this, the layer that they're adding on top here, it's not just a question about Dolph Ziggler horning in on Otis's girl, or at least his crush, let's call it. Now it's Otis's presence is starting to create a bit of friction between Mandy and Sonya. So Otis is positioning himself to kind of become like the Yoko Ono of Fire and Desire if things start going that way. You know, because Sonya asked Mandy, is like, oh, do you think you could get Otis to come out and stand at ringside? Because she, the week before, saw Otis distract Alexa Bliss, and she was like, well, if Alexa was distracted by Otis, then maybe she'll be distracted this week too. I mean, there's a psychology to it. And then they have but basically Otis costs Mandy not Mandy but Sonya the match, and he catches Mandy who flew off the turnbuckle to the top turnbuckle to the floor. I think it's great, and it's such a nice little layer that they're adding to the whole thing, which is making it all the more endearing because it's not over the top yet. And like I said on the Fightful Post show last week, the only issue that I have so far is that I really hope that Otis dials back a little bit on the goofy, like, tongue lashing and seductive thing, because this whole storyline works best when he is very very grounded and very natural in his crush. You know, the awkwardness, the anxiety of talking to a girl who's clearly out of his league. That's when it works best. If he starts being a little too overtly sexual and doing very suggestive things, it sort of loses its charm. So if he dials that back and he stays very, very poised, it'll keep getting good. This is really good. Like I said, it's my pleasure to point out when WWE does things that are garbage, but I think we have to underscore when they're doing things well, and this is a storyline that I can get behind. We're going to give some warm soda now to the Andrade and Rey Mysterio match, where Andrade successfully defended the U.S. title against Rey Mysterio. I mean, a lot of people were going nuts about the match online, saying it was great, and it was great. Don't get me wrong. It's not as if it was a boring match. It was very, very exciting, but my God, it was a scary match. My God. I mean, there were some spots that thankfully worked that ended up, let's say, not hurting people, right? Scott, how you doing? Welcome to the chat. It's there were some spots there. There were the code red off the ladder onto the other ladder. Man, that was frightening. That was the first one that got me really scared. The powerbomb roll up thing when Ray was dangling from the support that was holding the title in the middle of the ring. That was scary too. Like, it didn't go exactly like I think it was supposed to be like a Hurricane Rana. It was, and the finisher, you know, the hammerlock DDT onto the ladder, that was brutal as hell. I'm just mixed on the match, because on one hand it was exciting, but on the other hand, it was so close to being very, very disastrous for the guys. and you know, and I'm definitely not sitting here going, "Oh, son of a bitch, botches over." That's not it. That's not it. The match was exciting. It was compelling. It was just scary. It was a scary, scary match. But yeah, I mean, and you know, Andrade retains. I think it's good. I think it forwards nonetheless his story, this overarching storyline that Rey Mysterio is retiring this year. Look, we'll see what happens. But this was pretty good. We are going to give some more. Well, not some more. The very first hot trash of the evening, and I'm going to give it to the SNL parody, the Monday after the weekend update. This was lame. I don't think how anyone finds this funny. And it's not because the Street Profits are bad at what they do. To perform comedy, sketch comedy, well done, it takes a certain amount of talent. It's not just, hey, let's do it, it'll be fun. There's an execution to it that isn't there. And you remember do you guys remember when they did this the first time? Because I remember the first time when they did it, and it was kind of like this.
Hello, I'm a piece of garbage.
And then they decide to bring it back like on Monday for a second time, and it's kind of like this.
Oh, hi, thanks for checking in. I'm still a piece of garbage.
I really don't like these. I really don't. I don't think they're well done. Somehow they think this plays into the strengths of the Street Profits, and it doesn't. They're interesting guys. They're funny guys, but they're not comedians. There's a reason why it works on SNL and it doesn't work with wrestlers. There's a reason for that. And plus, they're just continuing to bury. The Street Profits time and time again. They're just making them completely unbearable and annoying. And it's going to turn out that every time we're going to wonder what the Street Profits are doing, this is what we're going to be thinking about.
Oh, hi, thanks for checking in. I'm still a piece of garbage.
Shout out to Bill Wirtz on YouTube for doing these fantastic videos. He used to do these on Vine. They're all archived on YouTube. Funny, funny stuff. Go check them out. Next, let's move on. Let's see here. What are we doing next? Wait a second. I'm not already all there. Oh, we're still doing hot trash. We're still doing hot trash. Let's give some more hot trash. The main event. That was the main event that they gave us. The mixed match challenge match. The mixed match tag team match. What's the match they decided to give us for the main event? This in an evening where we had a championship tag team match. Where the tag team titles changed hands. Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy won them off of the Viking Raiders. Where we had Andrade versus Rey Mysterio. Hell, where we even had Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre. No. All those matches, they're way too hot for the main event. We're going to go with the mixed match tag challenge, where one of the people in the ring isn't really an active wrestler, all of that, and quite possibly involved. All these people are involved in one of the most annoying angles of all time. This is how we're going to end the show. This is how we're ending the show. It was crap, and the ending was crap. Everything was crap. They better be putting Bobby Lashley in the main event of WrestleMania to have week after week try to push him down our throats and put him in a main event spot like that. They have to have, if they don't have something big planned for him, this was all useless. And contrary, I will say this though, contrary to what a lot of people are saying online, I don't think that they are burying Liv Morgan at all. We basically we basically didn't see anything out of Liv Morgan during the match. She's not being buried, but I'll tell you one thing, this angle is not, it's not helping her. It's not helping her take off at all. Let's move on to some cool beans then. Cool beans. Where are the cool beans? There they are. Eli Drake. Do you guys remember from Impact how good Eli Drake was as a promo guy? Do you remember? Because I honestly think he's better now. I think he's fantastic. The promo he cut on Power this week, building up the main event, the Aldis versus Ricky Morton main event with James Storm, he was absolutely fantastic. That guy sold me a ticket to that main event. It was fantastic. It was such a good cut promo. He was natural and smooth and intense and played with the crowd, did his thing. He was absolutely mind-blowing. And sure, we talk a lot these days about Cody Rhodes and his uncanny ability to cut a promo. I'm not taking anything away, but he has to be put in there in the conversation. We can't just sit around saying, oh yeah, Eli Drake is pretty good. No. He's been gradually going next level. I feel like this heel turn, this babyface turn that they're giving him is helping him connect in a brand new way and something different. He's so good at what he does. He's so good. Ever since he cut that promo where he was drunk, where he came out drinking champagne, I don't know if he actually was drunk or if it was a work or not, but ever since then, his promos have been 5-star. He's so good at what he does. I'm completely floored. I honestly don't remember him being that good in Impact. I really don't. Just give me a second here. We had some people jump in. Jared Simmons in the chat. How you doing? Welcome aboard. Kirby Freeman is here as well. And I think I saw someone else here. Didn't I see someone else? One Fall Podcast as well. How you doing? It's good to see people. It's good to see people coming in. Makes me feel good. So there we go. All right. Eli Drake. He's really good. We're going to keep the cool beans going here when we talk about the cultural significance of having seen on a national platform such as YouTube, international platform, to have seen such a sporting event such as a Mongrovian martial arts demonstration and seminar held by Mongrovian karate sensei master ? This was fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic. A self-defense seminar and demonstration provided by the Mongrovian government in association with the National Wrestling Alliance, said Aaron Stevens, who walked us through the demonstration, the katas, and the ? Was there with students and pulling off the demonstrations. But then eventually it all leads to Aaron Stevens getting in the ring, getting blindsided by one of the students, one of the masked students who turned out to be Ricky Stark. So they're pushing that angle forward. This was great. This is just enough comedy for me for it to work. And I know there's a lot of people who are annoyed / mad at the fact that there's comedy wrestling in NWA, which is apparently supposed to be this pure area where there's nothing silly that can never happen. And I invite you to go back and watch some NWA stuff from the 80s and tell me that the Boogie Woogie Man wasn't a comedy act. I'm just saying that. This is perfectly used. This is used to perfection. Wonderfully. Aaron Stevens understands his role. The ? Is a goofball character that is a callback to masked foreigners, masked foreign gimmicks from the 70s, from the 80s. It's a pastiche, folks, is what it is. And the demonstration was just perfectly silly. I loved it. I hope they do some more. I really, really do. Vape Ross Vape, how you doing? Welcome to the chat. Next, we're going to talk about the still on Power, the gauntlet match that they had, the Battle Royal gauntlet match, where basically you could, where basically it was a Battle Royal. It was a Rumble Royal, is what it was. But you could defeat your opponents by tossing them over the top rope, pinning them, or submitting them. It was like everything was possible. And this was to fill out the final spot of the in the TV title tournament that's going to take place at Hard Times tomorrow night. This essentially was or at least the first half of the match was a wrestling match for demonstration exhibition, I guess, for Caleb Conley and C.W. Anderson. C.W. Anderson, longtime wrestler, did some jobber spots in WWF at the time. Worked as enhancement talent, worked a bit in ECW as well. Had some long stints in the independents. Against Caleb Conley, who is low-key one of my favorite wrestlers in NWA. They need to move this guy away from the enhancement position, but because he's real good. And they wrestled a good match together. Conley hit a driver on Anderson at some point, reversed it into a single-leg crab, and Anderson just knocked the bejeebus out of him with some clotheslines. They even double teamed to take out Josephus, the returning Josephus, back from his suspension. Now I'm just crossing my fingers that we'll get one day Josephus versus the question mark. That's the big money match for me right now, because that's one thing I want to see. So basically, they eliminated Josephus. Conley and Anderson tried to eliminate Colt Cabana the same way, but he's a bit sharper. That Colt didn't quite work out as well. And Ken Anderson came in, so he and Colt Cabana double teamed on a lot of guys. Aaron Stevens, when he got into the ring, he actually stepped in, but went to hide under the ring. Waited until Ken Anderson and Colt Cabana were the last two guys left in the match to try and eliminate them through a distraction with the question mark. But the question mark went to hit them both, Anderson and Cabana, with Mongrovian spikes, the deadliest and most protected finisher in NWA. But instead, he ends up giving the double Mongrovian spike to Aaron Stevens, who just paralyzed. It was like he hit him in the perfect nerve spot, and he planked and was bouncing off the top rope. I thought it was perfect. So Cabana and Anderson got rid of Stevens, but Ken Anderson betrays Colt Cabana, rolls him up, holds onto the tights to beat him, and then beats the crap out of him with the mic check 2-3 times. This was a fun match. Fun battle royal again this week. I'm going to point it out because I think it's important to point this out. If you watched my my Pro Wrestling Eve Wrestle Queendom 3 recap show, you will know my thoughts on battle royals. I love battle royals. I love Royal Rumble. They're fun. But here again, just like in Pro Wrestling Eve, you have a smaller promotion who doesn't have the resources or the size of an AEW, and yet they're putting on better and more entertaining battle royals than AEW is able to put on. We're going to keep on going with some cool beans, and we are going to start talking about AEW. I don't want to give you the impression that I'm crapping on AEW, because I love AEW. And I especially love it when they, the tradition, I think, with AEW, the tradition that they're setting up with Dynamite is that every match every episode of Dynamite has to start with a super hot match, because that is the one constant throughout the entire run of AEW so far, and it's how their matches just are. Their opening matches are bananas good. They're so good. Omega and Page defeat SCU to become AEW World Tag Team Champions in a fantastic match. I loved Adam Page jumping off of the top rope onto Frankie Kazarian, who's on the outside, and they fall right into the audience. It was such a good-looking spot. I love the spot where Kenny Omega sneaks out of a TKO by Scorpio Sky, but then eats the buckshot lariat that Page had been setting up. He eats it. Omega eats the TKO, but Page was thrown to the outside, gets back into the ring to break it up. Omega eats two finishers. Of course, you're going to need someone to break it up. This was great. And Omega, I'm going to tell you, this was Kenny Omega's best performance since starting in AEW. Now I started to see the Kenny Omega that we all fell in love, and yet we all fell in love with, Kristen. We all fell in love with during in New Japan. We saw those sparks of brilliance, that smoothness that he has, the crispness in everything he does, the effortless everything. He's so good. And we saw the spark last night. It was amazing. I got shivers. I was like, yes, this is the guy. This is the guy who should be main. This is the main event, Kenny Omega. We had him like right there in front of us. It was so good. So they win the titles. And the Jacksons come out to celebrate. The Young Bucks, Matt and Nick. And Paige sees the guys come into the ring, and he sort of he sees them, and he just turns his back away, like he turns away from the Jacksons to look into the audience and cheer with them. And Sean Ross Sapp last time when we were doing the Wednesday Night Wars podcast said, "Did you notice what happened in WrestleMania 12 when he said maybe you've heard this story. Shawn Michaels, when he won the title off of Brett, he goes to the ref with the title sort of like this, and he tells the ref, he says, 'Tell Brett to get the fuck out of the ring,' because he wanted his moment alone." So Adam Page did that last night. He went to the ref and he said, "Get the Bucks out of here. This is my moment." But the ref is like, and they're celebrating, high-fiving. Page is like, what the So instead of just like so you know what he does? He rolls out of the ring, goes into the audience to celebrate, takes his drinks, but then gets lifted. He said, "Body surf me back to the entrance ramp." He says, You two spotlight hoggers coming in here for some shine? No. This is my moment. I'm going to make sure the cameras stay on me. It was brilliant. And then later on in the evening, they being Page and Omega, they're being interviewed by Tony Schiavone. And Schiavone asks his first question, and both guys are like, yeah, they're pumped. And Schiavone just gives the microphone over to Omega to answer the first question. And Page was right beside him, was to his immediate right. But he reached over to Omega, and Page was just like, it sort of took the air out of his celebration. It was like, why? Why is it always these guys? Why is it always Kenny? Why is it always the Bucks? And it wasn't over-exaggerated. It wasn't like something that was completely overblown. It wasn't like anything like he was going. He was more like, it was just like defeat. It was like frustration. And then the Jacksons come into the shot. And Page, of course Page is pissed off. Of course he's like, What are you guys doing? He said, no, it's good. I'm out of here. Of course, Matt and Nick Jackson are the biggest heels right now. I am completely behind Adam Page. I'm going to tell you, right now, Adam Page, the way he's being booked, from the way he was booked from All Out to now, he currently is AEW's biggest success stories because they took a guy who was legitimately cooled down and where everyone was sort of scratching their chins going, what are they going to do with Page next? What's next for him? And they create this angle where he's frustrated. He's sort of hitting rock bottom. You're not quite sure where he's going. And he's becoming a people's champion. He goes in to celebrate with the audience, and the audience is sympathetic to what's happening. I don't think anyone is blind to what those bastards, the Jacksons, are doing right now. And if AEW, this is where I'm really, really interested to see where it's going, because if AEW is saying to themselves, we're going to have Page turn on the Elite and become a heel, that's not going to work. The Elite have to become heels, or at least the Jacksons. Besides the Jacksons, the Young Bucks, they've played as heels for most of their indie career. They're comfortable in the role, and quite honestly, I prefer them as that. Kenny can be stuck between the two, that's fine, but the biggest mistake they could do right now is to turn Page heel, to have Page come out and cut a You People promo or some junk like that. Right now, I'm digging this story so much. It is well done. The reservations that I had regarding them pulling an alcoholism angle on TV in wrestling with him, everything is just working right. Everything is just clicking. They're doing a fantastic job. Something they're not doing as quite a good job on, however, is their women's division, once again highlighted by Britt Baker versus Priscilla Kelly. Very, very happy to see Priscilla Kelly on AEW, and seeing her arrive in the ring with the hair and her getup, the Hell's Favorite harlot gimmick. She's the type of character that they need in the women's division. But she's not quite ready for prime time. We saw it a little bit last night. Wasn't quite there. But neither is Britt. And meaning AEW, they have women who are primetime ready. But for some reason, they're not putting them on TV on Dynamite. Or they're putting them in these excruciating angles that just take away from them and keep them from having great matches. I don't know why they're still sitting on B. Priestley. I don't know why they're not building us a Chris Statlander versus B. Priestley match, or a Hikaru Shida versus B. Priestley match. I don't know why they're not doing that. I don't know why they're not bringing back Shauna on TV more. Is she still supposed to be injured after being powerbombed by Nyla Rose? There's another feud that they were supposed to do. Britt will improve. She will get better, but she's not there yet. And she's especially not in a position to work with another green wrestler and make sure that she's well carried, I guess. I love Priscilla Kelly, don't get me wrong. She's not there yet. You have Big Swole on Dark in the meantime. Why isn't she doing stuff up on Main? Honestly, I don't know what they're doing with the women's division. I really, really don't. And I don't have a solution on how to fix it, because I really feel at this point it is internal, and it's not even a question of talent. I think it's internal. It's how they treat the women's matches, how they perceive the women that they're hiring. And there's nothing more we can do about it. I have no solution. I really don't. And it bums me out. It bums me out so much, because you guys, and gals, if you're a regular listener, you know how big a proponent I am of women's wrestling. I think it's fantastic and I love it. But AEW is just dropping the ball. Crazy. I don't know what I don't know what would be a proper solution at this point. I really don't. I really, really don't. And we're gonna close this off with some cool beans. Let me get the hot trash here just to make sure there's no confusion. MJF, the match he wrestled last night against Joey Janela. My God. I saw something there that I haven't seen in him yet. He worked the match as a classic heel. Like a classic heel. Brian Payne, how you doing? And I'm not just saying that because you agree with me. How you doing, Brian? Baba Ruski's here too. And again, I saw on Twitter a lot of people, he's so slow. He's taking too much time, blah, blah, blah. He is working a classic North American heel style, and I am here for it. Just taking his time, milking the crowd for reaction, working the baby face down, not using high-flying moves, just being a dick, and making sure the baby face stays down, making sure the audience knows he's in charge and he's the best. So when the baby face gets his can build his comeback, it's explosive and great. That's how it usually works. This is why Jay White is so good at what he does. And then you'll have people who watch New Japan and will crap on his matches because the work rate isn't up. His work rate isn't up there with a Will Ospreay or Ibushi. There you go. Holy shit. What's wrong with me? So people crap on Jay White because his work rate isn't up there, but that's not it. He's working the style. And MJF was working the style last night, and I loved it. I absolutely dug it. And you guys know how I feel about Jay White. I think he's the best heel in the business today. I think MJF is really good. The problem that I have with MJF is that people like to boo him. They like to hate him. Whereas Jay White, I really do believe that people just don't like him. They want to see him be defeated. People want to see MJF. I think that's a nuance. And it was something that I feel is a bit of a problem with him as far as being considered a true nasty heel. But I'm going to tell you, the way he worked against Janela last night, if he works that style of match against Cody Rhodes at Revolution, Cody, who is a master in-ring storyteller, we are in for a bloody treat. Not necessarily bloody in the blood sense, like a fantastic, a damn good treat. There you go. Because being a good heel is all about storytelling. It's all about the story you tell. I'm going to be looking forward to this so much. And now MJF is gone from MLW. I think he's not renewing his contract. Yeah, it's going to be something special. So there you have it, folks. We're going to wrap it up on that. That was the weekly wrestling inspection. Remember, folks, if you want to leave a super chat, I'll read whatever you want to talk about, whatever you want to say. As long as it's not offensive, you can do that right here in the chat. You can do that. And don't forget to come and join me on patreon.com/MrWarrenHayes after the show. For the post-show stream, Warren is off the clock. It's going to be a good time. It's always a good time. What am I talking about? It's not as if it's news. I am always associated with good times. And this hat. So the WWE is reportedly going to change the name of the NXT Women's Championship. I don't know if you heard about this. This is a report, right? It hasn't been done. It's not confirmed yet. But, yeah, apparently there's something going on where the NXT Women's Championship will no longer be known as the NXT Women's Championship. How will it be known as, you may ask? Will it be known as the NXT Rebecca Championship? No, they're not going to be named it like that. You great big silly. No, they're going to be renamed. They're going to be calling it, again, according to the report, they're going to be calling it the NXT Championship. This is according to a report from Mike Johnson, who underscored that Mauro Ranallo last night during commentary referred to Rhea Ripley as the NXT champion as opposed to the NXT Women's Champion. Said the same about Toni Storm. Didn't call Toni Storm the NXT Women's Champion. NXT UK, Women's Champion, but the NXT UK Champion. He reports that this was an internal change within WWE that states that the NXT Women's belt will not only be referred to as the NXT Championship, there's no mention of possibly changing the title of the men's belt, which is also called the NXT Championship. And the idea seems to be to want to do away with separate gender divisions, right? With separate titles. Not to do away with them, but not give those titles separate names. It's an odd decision, and a lot of people have been accounting this to Becky Lynch, who said in an interview on Backstage, saying that the best thing for the women's division would be to stop calling it the women's division, right? And she actually went to Twitter today to clear it up, because a lot of people are putting two and two together, saying, "Oh, Becky wants to get rid of women's division, so they're taking the women's name off of the titles," and that's not it. I'm going to read verbatim what Becky Lynch said, or what she meant to say. "My comment about removing the word women from the conversation wasn't about renaming a division. It was about beginning to rethink it. I wasn't advocating for any changes in title names or anything else, like I'd have the power, but simply an equal volume of opportunities that are based on skill and not gender. The term women can limit openings because phrases like 'there's already a women's match on the show' is still in wrestling's historical DNA. We're all just superstars who want our shots and places on the shows if we earn and deserve them. I'd simply love us to get to a place where there's 3 women's matches on a pay-per-view, or 10, or none if it so happens we're not serving the audience." So basically, I mean, there's a bit of obviously this is all part of the conversation since, maybe it's bubbling back up a little bit since Tessa Blanchard won the Impact World Championship 2 weeks ago. Where obviously, I mean, I think it's I think it's hard not to put 2 and 2 together here. If we're talking about this over in WWE, it's clearly because this people are thinking about it, they're talking about it. There's a thought process happening behind it all. But I'm a huge women's wrestling proponent. I love it. I absolutely adore it. But I don't understand this move. I don't. Why would you call? I mean, this is just going to create confusion. Now, we don't know what they're going to do with the men's titles, but at this point, I'm just like, I don't understand why you would change the name. Why would you just take women's away and have 2 NXT champions? It's a little weird. Unification, I don't know. But no, I don't think that WWE is going full on intergender with this, for sure. But I see what they're trying to do. I see what they're trying to do. And things will happen in increments, right? I am of the belief that true equality in wrestling will occur when we all accept intergender wrestling as a thing. Because like Becky said in her comment, they're just all of them, they're just superstars and they just want their opportunities. But I'm not a fool either. And I know how divisive a topic it is. I know all the arguments for and against. I'm all aware of them. No one has been pulling up anything new to argue against intergender wrestling for the past 10 years. I've heard it all before. But it's not going to be an overnight change. You cannot spur that kind of shift because it's a huge shift in mentality overnight. So I understand if they want to make things a little more neutral, a little more fluid, to use terms. I get it though. I understand. And this is a step probably towards that. Will it happen next year? Probably not. Will it happen in 10 years, 20 years? Maybe. But this is how you start this kind of process. I don't think we're going to be getting intergender matches really, really quickly in NXT, where you feel like this kind of progress could take place. But it is a step. I just don't know. I just don't understand. I just don't understand how taking the women's identification away from the title suddenly means that everyone's on the same playing field if there are two identical titles. Now, does this mean that the women could challenge for the North American Championship? Because that one is genderless, right? I mean, why wouldn't they do that? I don't think they're good. This is the kind of stuff that I don't think they're going to do on Raw or SmackDown. I really don't. I think they're going to do this, if they want to try some stuff out, they're going to definitely try it out in NXT. I really don't know what the end game here is. We'll give it some time. Maybe this is something that has some kind of end game coming over in Worlds Collide. Maybe we're going to get some type of unification belts, championships, some unification championships. Then again, didn't I see WWE tweet out that they that Walter had debuted a new NXT UK Championship belt, which looked exactly like the previous one? I don't know. So I don't know if they're going to immediately smush everything together into some sort of unification thing, but hey, I don't know. But and just as weird as it is, as it stands right now, this is the kind of thing where I just have to take a step back and take a look at what they're trying to do with this. It's like, oh, there's nothing wrong calling it the women's title. I'm not saying you're right. But one thing that we do have to keep in mind is that Becky Lynch is right when she says, there's already a women's match on the card, still being very much a part of wrestling DNA. We still have that conversation when we have these conversations amongst ourselves. We'll often tell, who's your favorite female wrestler? The best women's match tonight was, as opposed to the best match. And I'm still guilty of that. I know I do it sometimes. It's something that's so ingrained, and it's something that's so ingrained, it's difficult to break. But you start breaking these reflexes by small steps, baby steps. Is this a baby step towards something? Let's have this conversation in another 6 months, in a year. I'm going to remember this, and we'll see what happens moving forward here. We'll see. Nick Wolf sends a super chat and he says, Walter for NXT Championship against Rhea Ripley. You know what? I mean, I'd be okay with that. I think it'd be great. I think it'd be fantastic. Walter would chop the shit out of her. My God. Well, he chops the shit out of everyone. That'd be really good. I mean, they'd stand toe to toe. They're built, they're tall, they're powerful. I'd love it. The intergender fan in me says, yes, please. There we go. Hey, let's talk about the Hall of Fame. The WWE Hall of Fame. We still haven't got the all of the what's the word I'm looking for? All of the inductees yet, right? So but we're getting closer. We're inching closer to WrestleMania. More and more people are going to get announced. As we know right now, Batista's going in. The NWO's going in. I'm laughing because I've talked about it before. I talked about it on Patreon about the 4 members, not including Eric Bischoff, not including Ted DiBiase, not including Big Show, the Giant, Paul White, but including Six Pack. And the Bellas, right? The Bellas were also announced as inductees, and to me, that's it. It's all fine. It all makes sense to me. But it's the time of year where we all sort of look back, right? And Chad, I want you to. I put out a tweet earlier just before we started, and I was like, "Come into the chat tonight, folks. We're going to be discussing the Hall of Fame. Come in with your own wishes, your predictions, or who you feel needs to get in. Let's talk about it. And I'm going to open up the discussion here. I'd like to start by seeing inducted into the Hall of Fame this year, BWB Wrestling. Thank you very much for the super chat. No question. He says, just wanted to say cheers, Warren. Thank you, BWB Wrestling, and thank you for coming. Jason PS3, how you doing? William Regal is someone I'd like to see inducted this year. He's had a fascinating career, an absolutely fascinating career. Worked the British style for a while, came over to WCW, and he almost cost Goldberg his job in a legendary match. I don't know if you guys remember it or saw it, but back then, Goldberg was not known for his in-ring expertise. His matches were spear, jackhammer, pin, and that was pretty much it. That was it. That was his job. Come in, squash a dude, and leave. That was the thing. But William Regal, one night on Nitro, decides to go off script and puts poor old Bill Goldberg into a match, exposing him. Not exposing like his butt. That's not what I mean. Just exposing that he has no talent. That was a big one. And apparently got chewed out after. It was a big deal. Anyway, later he'd go to WWE where he had a garbage run. It was the man's man gimmick that we all sort of look back now and sort of have a good chuckle about it. It was so silly. Oh yes, such good times. So Monty Python-esque, but back then it wasn't any good. Then he went back to WCW, only to go back to WWE, where then he really established himself. He had all sorts of feuds, a feud with Edge and Christian and Chris Jericho. His second run in WWE, clearly his best, his most legendary one. But of course, now we know him as the commissioner of NXT, the general manager, I should say. You know what? When you think about it, he is the only enduring authority figure on WWE programming right now. They flushed all of them. Paige, Kurt Angle, Shane McMahon, no one's around anymore. There's only William Regal, general manager of NXT, holding the fort, making sure the lights stay on and the matches are good. That's probably why NXT is so good these days. Because of good old William Regal. And when you look at his accomplishments as well, his accolades, he's a 4-time WCW World Television Champion, a 5-time Hardcore Champion in WWF, 4-time European Champion, 2-time Intercontinental Champion, and he's won the World Tag Team Championship 4 times, twice with Lance Storm, once with Eugene. Let's try to forget that part of his career, though. And once with Tajiri. He was also King of the Ring in 2008. And if only for the personal story of this guy, everything that he battled against, his own addictions, his own failings, to just stay in wrestling and become who he is today. This was to me, he's a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame. He has had way too big a career. Much too spanning. What are we talking about here in the chat, folks? Aaron Jay's fan says Vader. Isn't Vader in? They inducted Vader. Or did they? I think they did. Johnny A says Nick Wolf, and I'm not sure if he's trolling or not. Molly Holly says Jason PS3. Joey Styles would be a good call, but I think he burned a couple of bridges too much before leaving. Aaron Jay's fan says Raven. There's another guy I don't think we'll ever see in the Hall of Fame. Gilbert and Ralphus. Yeah, okay. Oh, that's pretty funny. Robert Larry says Owen Hart. That's a whole other story. I think Martha Hart is supposed to have an interview coming up where she's going to talk about Owen Hart being in the Hall of Fame. I'm really, really interested to see about that, because it all depends on her. It entirely all depends on her. Nicole Silver, welcome to the chat, by the way, says Christian. Yes, I agree. Melinda says the British Bulldogs as well. But I want to submit on to you Rick Martel, the model, or as I used to know him, Ricky Martel. He's my earliest wrestling memory. Growing up in my part of the woods, I saw him wrestle on weekend mornings on Lutte Internationale, which was essentially the Montreal wrestling territory. It was owned by Andre the Giant and Gino Brito. And Rick Martel was the consummate babyface, the absolute number one babyface. I live in the province of Quebec over in Canada. That's where the territory was, based in Montreal, but it also covered Quebec City. And Quebec City and Montreal have a very long-standing rivalry, especially due to back when we had hockey teams. But there's always been a love-hate relationship between. We're just warring cities, right? You guys understand that. And Martel was from Quebec City, aside, not from the big city, and he was just a consummate babyface. He competed against Dino Bravo, who was another big babyface in the promotion, but he competed with them. They had in 1983 into 84, they had crazy babyface feuds between each other, fighting in Montreal. In Quebec, they drew 11,400 people in the Montreal Forum. One of the only times that Rick Martel was booed as a babyface back then, because he was the guy from Quebec City wrestling against the Montreal guy. He's had a fantastic career. He's had a bunch of titles. He was AWA World Heavyweight Champion, which is a huge deal. He wrestled a lot in NWA, winning the Commonwealth Heavyweight Championship 3 times. He was a Georgia Tag Team Champion with Tommy Rich as well. NWA Pacific Northwest Tag Team Champion with Roddy Piper on 3 different occasions. And he was then, of course, he went over into the WWF, where he won, where his only gold really came in tag team action when he was with Tony Garea, where he won it twice, and once with Tito Santana. And then he had a short stint in WCW where he won the WCW television champion. But on top of that, man, he fought Ric Flair in Japan, in All Japan, in 1985, in a a unification title match between the AWA and the NWA. It ended in a double countout. He won, like I said, the WWF tag team titles with Tito Santana from the Hart Foundation, mind you. And in the 1991 Royal Rumble, he went 50 minutes. The Iron Man performance. To me, it's still a mystery. And then we're not even talking about the quality of the model gimmick and arrogance. Look, it's still a mystery to me why he's not in the Hall of Fame. It really is to me. I don't understand it. It's fascinating. I don't quite get it. Let's see here. Vape says British Bulldog, but singular, so I think he means Davey Boy Smith. That would be something there, of course. Robert Larry, no, I'm sorry, I thought he was something else. He's talking about the Natural Butch Reed. I don't know if Butch Reed is a Hall of Fame level. Aaron Jace fan says Damian Demento just for main eventing the first Raw against Undertaker. Aaron Jace fan, I just you. We're also I'm just gonna mention here at the same time. Gonna talk about another Hall of Fame inductee that I think also people should be added into as well. We should also be talking about Bull Nakano. Now, Nakano is a legendary women's wrestler. A lot of maybe some of you right now are saying, well, she did what she had to do basically in Japan. Like that's pretty much it. But there is very much a WWF or WWE connection that we can create here, because in 1994, 1995, she was women's champion, having won it from Alundra Blaze, Medusa. She was who was the biggest women's star in North American wrestling, women's wrestling right now. So she was, so that's where your connection can be right there. She's one of the most influential women in the history of women's wrestling. She wrestled in numerous sold out venues in the Tokyo Dome, as well as sold out Tokyo Dome. Her influence is still felt today as a powerhouse. A lot of people talk about Aja Kong, but man, she was huge and powerful, and for the time was very, very unique in her style, super athletic, a pioneer in a certain way of being able to perform maybe high-flying moves, I guess you'd say, with being her size. She was absolutely fantastic, and spent most of her career in All Japan, winning every title that there had to be won there. She won the AJW championship, which is like the basic, like, lower mid-card title. She won the AJW junior championship, the All Pacific championship, which is the second biggest belt, and the WWA World Singles Championship as well, which is the big belt. And she also won the tag team championships Championship 3-time with Dump Matsumoto, Condor Saito, and Grizzly Iwamoto. Such a huge legendary career that she had. And there is a connection with the WWF that can be made. So I think this is the kind of thing where they should do the right thing here. Let's see here. Half-Ass Pod, how you doing? Says, I honestly think it's criminal that Victoria is not in the Hall of Fame, especially after seeing that Ivory is in. I agree. That's a very good point. I don't understand why she wasn't given a final run in WWF regardless, just for her to wrap up her career, because she's retired now. But that's an excellent point. Chloe? Yes. Welcome to the chat, by the way. It says, in reality, the Hall of Fame doesn't matter, as Snoop Dogg is Hall of Fame. And people are talking about Kid Rock being in it as well, instigating it as a joke. So yes, all that is true. All of that is true. And finally, the last person I just want to bring up is Ivan Koloff, who again is a monster of a man. Here's a guy, quite honestly, who I don't quite understand why he hasn't been added into the Hall of Fame yet. He is the he's the basic the quintessential, the original mean foreigner, right? The guy who should be the guy who just used the fact that he was Russian, or at least portrayed a Russian, to get the heat. And he was the guy who beat Bruno Sammartino in 1971 in Madison Square Garden, the seemingly unbeatable Bruno Sammartino. That was a big deal. Pinned him in the ring. People left Madison Square Garden crying. But then the second run that he had versus Bruno, on top of that, saw him compete against Bruno again in the Garden's first cage match. And it was such a big deal. I don't know if you guys knew this, but it was such a big deal. There were so many tickets. Like, the Garden was sold out. They had to open up the what they called the Felt Forum, which is a smaller venue attached to Madison Square Garden. Sits about 4,000 people, and they they sold out that venue as well, and had the match be transmitted in closed circuit TV. I mean, that's how big it was. He also went on to headline NWA shows as well, and had late career success as well. As he got older, started teaming as the Russians, and he had a variety of partners. He had Crusher Khrushchev, Nikita Koloff, and I'm sure I'm forgetting guys as well. I'm sure I'm forgetting a couple of people as well, but that's who he was. It was fantastic, and he was, like I said, the WWF World Heavyweight Champion, because he defeated Bruno. He was the WWC Puerto Rico Champion, the NWA US United States Tag Team Champions with Crusher Khrushchev. He won quite a few times. Lots of tag team gold. He won the NWA World Tag Team Championships twice with Nikita Koloff. One with Don Kernoodle. There, I figured I was forgetting something. And with Ray Stevens as well. I mean, he did so many things. So many things. He headlined Soldier Field in the AWA against Vern Gagne in 1972. He defeated Roddy Piper for his first 4 Mid-Atlantic heavyweight titles. He had a brilliant match with the Rock and Roll Express at Starrcade in 1985 too. I mean, the reason why Nikita Koloff not Nikita Koloff, Ivan Koloff, excuse me, is not in the Hall of Fame is probably because he was part of that concussion lawsuit that was levied against the WWF from former wrestlers. I think that's what makes the most sense. That's why Demolition aren't in there either, for instance, because he was part of that lawsuit. I hope that someone comes to their senses and adds this guy who was a critical part of WWE history. Well, there we go. Those are my predictions and hopes for Hall of Fame. Let's see what happens. But man, William Regal, Rick Martel, what are you guys waiting for? Martel he never got into any trouble. I don't know why. I don't know why they're sitting on him. Doesn't make sense to me. Well, there you have it, folks. So we're going to wrap this episode up. I hope you enjoyed it a great deal. Before we do, I want to say thank you to everyone who supports the Mr. Warren Hayes Show on Patreon, such as the Smart to Death podcast, Ryan Burke, Nick Wolf, Kristen Ashley, John Washabaugh, Jason Clay, Harmony, Ellen C, Big Paws on a Pup, and Ben Parise. Thank you for your support over on Patreon. Speaking of which, I'm going to be heading on over there. I'm going to be talking some more wrestling. I'm going to be talking about AEW storylines. I'm going to be talking about NWA Power being at 90 minutes. I'm going to be talking about The Fiend no longer being scary and how it pisses me off. If you want to hear me rant, come become a patron. That's going to start shortly. Remember Fightful tomorrow night I'm going to be there for the post show, the SmackDown post show. Then Saturday morning, right here, 11 a.m., Royal Rumble prediction show with Joe Anthony Myrick of Daily DDT. Then in the evening, after Worlds Collide, come join me and Alex Pulowski. We're going to be doing a post show for that. It's going to be a good time, everyone. And if you like having good times, well, you should come have more good times with me, because that's what I deliver. That's my trade. Call me Mr. Warren Good Time Hayes. Please don't, though. Thank you all so very much, and I'll see you next time.